Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Brandon again. Today I want to talk about training efficiencies and maximizing the time that you're in the gym because this is something that's been a huge issue for me as of late. Now, for those of you that aren't aware, I'm married, I have a kid, I have a full-time job, I travel for work, I travel for pleasure. I have a life that I generally like leading. That being said, even though I really love training, it's very low on my priority list. So the fact that I can get it in when I can is really all I have to go for these days, especially at my old age of 37. Now, because I want to maximize and make my time as efficient as possible while I'm in there, there's a couple of tips and tricks that I just want to share with you, or even just give you a reminder of things you can do too to make sure you're making your most of the time in the gym. So let's just jump right into it. Number one, by far and away, the biggest issue that I've had personally is just spending way too much time on my phone. And I think this actually translates to more just in life in general. I spend way too much time on that thing, whether it's on social media like Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube.
Page, keep on subbing, bitches.
Woo! Nature boy Ric Flair!
Whether it's replying to emails and comments that you guys have for me, whether it's just wasting time looking on Craigslist for the best deal for my home gym, whatever the case may be, I'm on my phone way too often, and it's a huge time suck. Now, I say that fully aware that probably 90% of the people watching this video are watching on your cell phones. Now, if you ask yourself, is there something better than you could be doing right now than watching an old man in his basement tell you how to live your life? The answer is probably yes, and even though I greatly appreciate you spending this time with me, that's just one prime example of time that is wasted on our phones. In fact, the other day I did a little bit of an experiment where I timed myself, just a normal workout, how I would normally go, and then I tried it the next day without my phone, and what I found was I was able to shave about 20 to 30 minutes off the time I was down here in the basement training, and that's 20 to 30 minutes that literally was not productive whatsoever. Now, the way I did that was by putting my phone in airplane mode so I wasn't tempted to go online because I couldn't go online. And that's a little bit extreme for a lot of us, especially if you listen to things like Spotify or Pandora or use streaming services, whatever the case may be. But I'm sure you can find workarounds for that. When I think about the reasons I need to be on my phone while training, the only real things I need to take a look at are a screenshot of maybe the training for that particular day that I'm doing, or maybe a quick access to a calculator to do kilos to pounds and vice versa, although my math has gotten a lot better in my older age. But there's really not a reason for me to be on my phone, and I really have been trying to avoid it, and since doing so, I found my training to be much more efficient. Speaking of other things that have really made my training more efficient, sometimes it's addition by subtraction. So I've done away with a lot of the mobility work that I used to preach a lot of. In fact, I've made a lot of videos on foam rolling, lacrosse balls, band work, and if there is a nagging injury that I need to get loose or stretch out, or I'm trying to actively do something where I have a lot of extra time, then I may do it. But for the most part now, I don't do any of that pre-training because number one, it takes up a lot of time. And number two, for the most part, I found that it didn't really translate well into making me feel better. And then number three too, in some cases I was doing so much of it where I was actually feeling fatigued by the time I actually got to my lifting. So I've really tried to do away with it pre-training. That's not to say I've done away with it completely, because what I will find is that if I have a 5 or 10 minute window just throughout the course of the day, or I need to, get away from sitting at my desk doing work, then doing some of those things have not only made me feel better, but also as a nice mental break as well. So I've done away with that pre-training and just tried to implement that throughout the course of the day. That has helped. What's also helped is maximizing my actual warm-ups when I get to my working sets. Now, obviously on things like squats and deadlifts, where my working sets are typically 400, 500, 600 pounds in some cases, it takes me a good amount of working sets to get there. Now, luckily enough, I didn't have to mention bench because I have a poverty bench, and literally with one warm-up set, I'm at my working weight, which is nice and sad at the same time. But what I found is I was treating my warm-ups for squats and deadlift way too like a working set, meaning that I would do like the bar for a set of 10, and then I would take like 2 or 3 minutes before I would do my next warm-up set, which would be 135 pounds or 60 kilos, depending on your preference of units of measure. And the same thing would happen as I kept going up. So when you take a look at doing 6 or 7 of those actual warm-up sets at 2 to 3 minutes each, it ends up being I would be in the basement for 30 to 40 minutes before I really got to my working weight, which is truly unacceptable. So one of the things I've really tried to do, especially at the lighter weights, is I'll do my warm-up set, load the bar, and immediately do the next warm-up set. Now, obviously, as you get to your heavier working weights, you're going to have to stretch that out a little bit to make sure you're ready to go to the next set. but I could really expedite my time that way, and I found that that trims off another 15 to 20 minutes, again, of the time I'm here down in my basement. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm talking all these things about trimming time off the time you're in the gym, and I do love being in the gym, but all that time is time that's wasted, and if I have a baby or a family or a work responsibility I need to get to, I really need to make sure that when I'm here, I'm doing work, I'm getting things done, and I'm not wasting time, because then on the back end, that's going to bite me in the ass when I don't have time to maybe get to all my compound movements or accessory movements. So those are two things. The last thing I want to talk about, and it's probably the most important, is just the programming in general. I can't stress the importance of good programming enough. It's one of the reasons why I recommend a coach. But for me, one of the things that has really helped is focusing in on my programming, taking a look at exactly what I want to do, what I want to accomplish, and what I enjoy doing. All too often, I've had programs in the past where I was doing exercises I didn't like, or in the amounts that I didn't like, and I found ways to work around that recently, whether that be stretching out frequency as a way to build volume, whether that be subtracting old exercises or implementing new exercises, or cutting down the number of days I work. Whatever the case may be, there's ways around it. So really take a look at what you're doing and prioritize what's important to you, and base that off how you train. Number one, you'll have more enjoyable training sessions, but number two, if you're enjoying it, they'll also be more effective in return. So those are the three things that have really helped me recently. Hopefully they help you, or just a reminder of some of the things to consider when you're training and you feel like maybe you're not having enough time in the gym, or your training isn't going how you want. There's a lot of variables that you can change to make sure that isn't the case. So hopefully this video helps some. If there's other things that you found to be really helpful, list them in the comment section below. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.